Welcome to a new episode of the Guru Perspective. I want to say good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're having a good day. I want to start off with a bittersweet moment for me. As much as I love football and the NFL in general, one of the things that happened just recently, you all know what happened on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. So that was the end of the season. Now I'm going to check out the XFL, UFL, whatever they want to call it now, where kind of get the little bit of the football out of me. But I know now I'm going to be more focused on what's going on in the NBA. And there's a lot of things that's going on. And I would like to bring and present a few of these things to you today as I speak to you on the Guru Perspective, of course. I want to start off and talk about the big game. I don't know if we can use the other name, on the show. I don't want to get flagged, so I'm going to say the big game today too as well. It was not what I expected. I definitely felt like the Eagles were going to win, and my prediction was 31-24. But I guess the Eagles felt a little different about that. One of the things I think that irked the Eagles as they were hearing, they were talking to Pat Riley, they as the Kansas City Chiefs, and was trying to get the rights and, get permission to use the 3P logo. This was 2 weeks ago. I sent that article to one of my buddies, DeMarco, and wanted him to read it and see how he felt about it because I definitely mentioned it to him. A lot of people are still saying, after that Super Bowl loss, the Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes shouldn't be considered a GOAT, but I still feel like he still got a lot of chances and time to improve those odds. Right now, he's one of the winningest guys in as far as a quarterback, especially coming out like he did. He set most of his rookie year. He came out that second year and he just took the league by storm and never looked back. He's starting to remind me of like the Tom Brady era with the New England Patriots. People always look at them as cheaters and happy and then cheer for them when they lose. I just felt like, all in all, in my opinion, that the Philadelphia Eagles was an all around better team. But when you have Patrick Mahomes on your team and a really, Hall of Fame coach like Andy Reid, I look at that and I say, well, man, you can never count that team out. And there's so much similarities to New England. I know when Patrick Mahomes started to win, I was laughing and I said, man, if he wins too much, people are going to start hating him and finding excuses to hate him. I still feel like it was a few questionable calls this year. One of them possibly could have been if they would have gave that fourth and inches to the Buffalo Bills. It's a possibility that we might be talking about the Bills in the Super Bowl versus the Kansas City Chiefs. Either way, the Eagles put on a phenomenal performance. At the beginning of the game, the tush push, and they kicked the field goal. Cooper DeJean ended up getting the pick six. It was so much pressure put on Patrick Mahomes, and I felt that like that O line left him hanging. They forgot that it was Super Bowl Sunday. That's what I feel like. The big game Sunday. Don't flag me. But it was pretty cool to see the game and see some of the things because it basically made me look at the game, critique, and then say, well, we need to take note, we meaning the Detroit Lions, on how the Philadelphia Eagles built their franchise and built their team. They built it on good drafting. They basically drafted a really solid front seven, and they got some good guys as far as athletic linebackers, the front with Jalen Carter, etc. They had one of our Michigan alums, Brandon Ingram. It's just a lot of good things that they did. And the Zach Bond pickup, from New Orleans Saints, he was basically a special teamer most of his career. And he went over to the Eagles and he had one of the games of his life, him and Cooper DeJean. I still feel like Saquon Barkley impacted the game because he didn't have as many carries, or he did have 25 carries. He didn't have as many yards as they usually do and wear out a team because they focused on that. And they said they're not going to let Saquon beat them on the running game and on the ground. But he still was effective in the pass game, and most attention was paid towards him. And once he started getting the ball and catching the ball off the backfield, that opened up for Jalen Hurts to do scrambles and, the big plays. When the game ended up being 24-0 at halftime, I said that this one might be over if they score again. They kicked the field goal, and I said, okay, the Chiefs still have a chance. One of my buddies, one of my fellow podcasters too, Quincy Lewis, he said, well, man, this is going to be a situation where, it's 24-0, that Patrick Mahomes going to have one of the biggest comebacks in Super Bowl history. and say, once he did this, solidify him as being a GOAT. And that didn't basically take off, and it didn't age well because after it was 27, because they came out after that first half, and then it was a three and out. I thought the Eagles were going to score because they were on the goal line. They kicked that field goal, and I said, okay, this might still be a game that's too close for comfort. And once that happened, it was another three and out. That ferocious D just coming at Patrick Mahomes, man, they didn't even do anything as far as, any blitz packages or anything. They just had their front, and that front just terrorized them. And the offense was patched together a little bit, as far as the O line. And I just feel like Andy Reid didn't really use as big of a run game as they should, even if it wasn't successful. Most times when they were running the ball, it was like for loss, 2, 3 yards per loss on the scramble. So I feel like when they looked at that and feel like nothing was going to materialize, let's go ahead and just pass the ball and try to do some passing plays that, considered as run plays like screens and, short passes to give Patrick Mahomes some momentum. But his passer rating was really bad. It was like one at one point. And then I think at the end of the game, it was like 11.1 or something of that nature. But they didn't give them a chance. And I feel like a lot of the Eagle defensive players was feeling some kind of way when they had the three-peat things that they were trying to bring out and, to have the merchandise for the game. They had every right to try to do that just in case, because regardless of the fact of what people think about Kansas City, they actually had that opportunity to try to go out there and three-peat. It didn't happen, unfortunately, but I still look at it like for them to even be there in that conversation was still history in making. I looked at it and I said, well, that's still a goal. They didn't complete the ultimate goal, but then it was still a goal for them to go back 3 times to a Super Bowl. I know a lot of people were happy that they lost. I looked at it and I said, yeah, man, I really felt like Philadelphia was the better team, and I believe their all season moves helped them out. They already did better from the team standpoint when they ended up, 2 years ago getting A.J. Brown. They ended up getting A.J. Brown from the Tennessee Titans. They felt like Devontae Smith was an exceptional receiver, but they still wanted to get somebody on the opposite side of him. You can't double team any of those guys, period, because, pick your poison. Once they did that, the run game wasn't really that solid. And last year they suffered a lot of injuries. So they ended up bringing Saquon Barkley in. The defense didn't do as good as they thought and left them hanging at the end of last season. They ended up getting Vic Fangio, and they didn't really have a true offensive coordinator. At this point, they ended up going ahead and getting Kellen Moore. And this proved to be the actual formula they needed to get them to the top and to get them over that, obstacle that was the big game. So at this point, I looked at the stats and I said, okay, a lot of the stuff that Patrick Mahomes did was kind of garbage time points. I still look at the Super Bowl as the final score was 40-6 because you could tell Philadelphia Eagles took off the gas. Hell, there was 3 minutes left and they was already giving a Gatorade bath to Nick Sirianni. You knew the game was over by far. His stats was 257 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 picks. Those 2 picks cost them too because they went back for scores. Patrick Mahomes had 4 carries for 25 yards. That was all their offense as far as the run game, too. Xavier Worthy in the garbage time had 8 receptions, 157 yards, and 2 scores. But what I look at is with Jalen Hurts, passing the ball, and he distributed to everyone, too. He had 221 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he had a pick. And he had 11 carries for 72 yards, and he got the tush push touchdown. Devontae Smith had 4 receptions for 69 yards and a score. When he scored on that bomb play, when he threw the bomb up, Jalen Hurts, and he caught the play, it was like the 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. That could have possibly been a momentum changer too for Kansas City if they would have got the stop. But once he got that long ball out there, and Devontae Smith was open, made the game 34 to 0. I knew that that was over at that time. So yeah, I felt like with the Philadelphia Eagles, their momentum was that whole three-peat thing that they saw that they were doing the Kansas City Chiefs with the 2 weeks to go in the Super Bowl. Hell, I think it was right after the Buffalo Bill game that they was trying to get permission to use that three-peat, which is understandable. But it gave the Philadelphia Eagles the motivation to play like they do. The crazy part about it too is how people say with Andy Reid, you give him 2 weeks and you're cooked. That streak is over now. You know, I still feel like when I've seen the talking heads, the ESPNs and the Shannon Sharps and the Stephen A's, they were saying that who was to blame in the Super Bowl for the collapse on the Kansas City Chiefs side. And they were saying some said Patrick Mahomes, of course, because he played his worst game as, a professional in his career. And it just so happened to be the Super Bowl. And some people blame Andy Reid because they said that he didn't really have no run game or game plan. You still got to give credit to that Philadelphia Eagles defense and Vic Fangio and what they did and how Kellen Moore executed when he was on offense. He didn't put too much on Jalen Hurts. He just worked on his strengths and he focused on what he could do. He wasn't having him pass the ball, 40 times, 50 times in a game. And the Super Bowl, it was just about balance. He had 22 passing attempts and 25 rushing attempts. So it was pretty even there. They focused on that run game with Saquon, and I believe Kansas City did too. And it was just a good performance from their defense. The offense played well too, but you got to give credit to the Kansas City Chiefs for being there and even playing in that game and being able to try to defend, their Super Bowl title. It just didn't go out in the way that they expected. I have some more news too. I just seen what was going on. Kellen Moore is now the new New Orleans Saints head coach. Kind of figured that they were working towards that. He's going to start getting his personnel, his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and special team coach in general. He's going to shape up that team now and try to gather off the momentum he had on the Super Bowl. That was the breaking news before I came on air. And I said, well, that's a good pickup. I know Nick Sirianni wasn't too happy about it because he wanted them to run it back. But in this case, I feel like Kellen Moore deserved this opportunity and he should take full advantage of it. They're going to have to get a new offensive coordinator. I believe it'll be somebody out there that'll help them. But, this hurt the Eagles before recently. Would that be a setback for the Eagles now? Because when they lost Shane Steichen the first time, they could have stepped back to the year after. I still feel like Jalen Hurts has identified himself now and know what he is and know his strengths and weaknesses. They just need an offensive coordinator who can go out there and who can execute at a high level and do the same thing. Know his strengths, know his weaknesses, and just focus on that. Because now you guys can't criticize and ridicule him like you used to. People used to throw Jalen Hurts under the bus. At some point, I was like, man, do he have what it takes? Because he's so laid back and chill. He's never, too high or too low. He's always right here with it. But he proved everybody wrong. He proved all the doubters wrong. I know he's definitely one of the guys now that you look at and feel like by him being and playing the way he did, he could have been the Super Bowl MVP in that first Super Bowl they had against Kansas City. A lot of people feel like that was a controversial ending too because they called the flag real late on the holding and it kind of changed the momentum of that game. This game, they made sure it was no excuses, and the whole situation about they call like phantom calls on Patrick Mahomes when you touch him. That didn't even go that way. Man, they were on him. They didn't give a damn what happened. At one point, I thought they roughed him up and it was going to be a face mask penalty. But I think they ended up calling that call on the Kansas City Chiefs after the play was over. And that's when the Eagles got the ball back. So I said, man, this is crazy how they just basically roughed up Patrick Mahomes. The offensive line didn't really give him as much time. Like I said, he wasn't really getting blitzed, but he was still running for his life. It reminds me of the game when they played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the offensive line was the issue. I believe they made that a strength afterwards and ended up winning back-to-back Super Bowls. But they're going to have to hit the reset button because you had a lot of rookies that you were trying to put in and you were trying to mismatch. And I feel like it was the patch up O line regardless still. And that was one of their Achilles heels. And it just basically came to hunt them when you have the number one defense in the league coming after you and that front being so ferocious. I want to talk about something too as well. And it's dear to me because it is February and it's Black History Month. I wanted to bring up some things too and talk about some of that as well with you as the audience. And I want to talk about Black history in sports. First and foremost, I want to talk about Dr. Charlie Sifford. He was born in 1922 and died in 2015. He was the first black golfer to play on the PGA Tour. In 1961, he became the first black golfer to receive the PGA card, which qualified him to play in the PGA Tour. Sifford was given the approval to play in at the end of 1960. He won the Greater Hartford Open in 1967 and Los Angeles Open in 1969. In 2004, Sifford became the first black person inducted to the World Golf Hall of Fame. In 2014, Barack Obama awarded Sifford with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Dr. Charlie Sifford was recognized for his groundbreaking achievements in golf and his impact in the civil rights movement. I wanted to start off the show that way, but it was a few things that I wanted to talk about and kind of get out there. But you will hear more of the Black history in sports from me, and I'm gonna do it weekly now. And just to give you guys a clue of what's going on, I'm gonna tell you some things that supposedly supposed to be the Rooney Rule. That was actually a different person who brought that up and made that a rule in the NFL. I want to talk about the first black, female coach who won, NCAA national title. It's a few things that I have and a few goodies that I want to discuss with you guys when it comes to the Black History Month because it's February and I definitely want to bring that up to the forefront for you guys, and I just feel like I didn't really too much care about doing things, like performances or having a speech in front of class when it came to Black History Month. But now, when my being an older man in life, it makes me appreciate what we have, and I don't just look at it as a Black History Month. I look at it as Black History is every month now. But I just wanted to speak on that. And now I want to get back to some of the things that happened. And I want to start off with a little bit of NBA basketball stats. In his 50 games this season, Shai Gilders-Alexander has scored 1,633 points and has a free throw percentage of 89.98%. The only other player who hit both of those marks through his first 50 games of the season is Rick Barry, who did it in 1974 and 1975. LeBron James is the first player in NBA history to have 40 plus points, 15 plus rebounds, 5 plus assists, 5 plus threes made, 1 plus block, and a steal. In a regulation game, he did this at the age of 40. LeBron has also scored 20 plus points in 10 straight games. That is twice as long as the next longest streak in the NBA history by a player aged 40 or older. I think Michael Jordan did it twice. So just think about that. LeBron James did it 10 straight times in a game, basically in his games, and Michael Jordan did it twice in his 40s. I don't know. That maybe bring up some more GOAT discussions. I know people look at it like the titles are a little bit more to think about and discuss. And Jordan never lost when it came to like the NBA Finals. Plus, LeBron James losing more than about the same amount. But I still feel like that's a GOAT conversation. I don't care what anybody say. Congratulations, LeBron. The Denver Nuggets are averaging 31.2 assists per game this season. That would be the highest average per game in a single season since the 1984-1985 Los Angeles Lakers. They did 31.4. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander within his last 15 games had 54 points, in 37 minutes versus Utah, 52 points in 39 minutes at Golden State, and 50 points in 34 minutes versus Phoenix. No one else in NBA history has scored 50 plus points while playing under 40 minutes three times in the span of 30 days or less, let alone 15. The next shortest span for a player to score 50 plus points in under 40 minutes three times in 31 days is by Giannis Antetokounmpo from January the 3rd to February the 2nd, 2023. Nikola Jokic entered February the 5th, 2025, with a triple double in each of his last seven games against the Pelicans. It's tied for the longest streak of games with a triple double by any player against a single opponent in NBA history. Oscar Robertson versus the Washington Bullets in 1963-64 and 1964-65. From January 11th through 18th, the Portland Trailblazers lost four straight games by 15 plus points each. No other team in NBA history has responded to such a stretch by winning nine of their last 10 games, as Portland has. Joel Embiid of the Philadelphia 76ers is the first player in NBA history to miss 15 straight games, regular and postseason, and then have a triple double in his return. That was the good news. But he is struggling with his knee injury. I want you guys to use my email a little bit more because this is the question I wanted to ask. Did Philly waste Embiid's career in his prime? Go to sportsguru2u at gmail.com, interact with me on there, let me know how you feel. I still feel like Joel Embiid got some pretty good players over there to play with him. I just don't know what it is about Philly. A lot of the guys didn't want to stay. I just want to see what's going to happen now because I believe there's still a lot of games under 500. Last I checked, they were 20 and 32. And even with, Paul George on their team and some of the guys that they try to get to help out, I know Tyrese Maxey is still on a high level of playing, but with Joel Embiid and his knee injury, and then, you still have Paul George who still be banged up as well. I thought that wasn't going to really work out like that. I said, you got two injury prone players who are playing with each other, and that's going to cancel each other out as far as them going far in the playoffs. And now, like I said, the last time I remember, their record was 20 and 32. Who knows? They still might be able to make a comeback, but I don't see it, especially with them still saying that Joel Embiid still have these knee problems. In Saturday game against the Pacers, Austin Reeves became the first undrafted player in the shot clock era since 1954-1955 to have 45 plus points and 7 assists in an NBA game. I seen that and I thought that was impressive because it was a few wins that came about before Luka Doncic even got a chance to play. So the Lakers are playing really good. They're above 500 and they seem like they're trending in the right direction now. Unfortunately, with Anthony Davis' injury, I kind of figured it was going to happen with the Lakers sooner than later, but them getting that trade and him being out for possibly 2 weeks, maybe a month, I still feel like it was a lopsided trade because I feel like Dallas only got a first round draft pick for him. Hell, like I said, Mikal Bridges and Rudy Gobert had at least 45 first round draft picks. Hell, he should have got seven alone just because it was Luka. So by them only getting one, I think a lot of owners and his ex was pissed about that. But yeah, this is what I was afraid of. That was going to happen with the Lakers, but now it happened to Dallas. So man, it was just perfect timing. Rob Lowe, man. I feel like that guy, man, he stole this pick right here. But hey, I'll talk about that some other time. I want to get into some of the NFL stats right now. Buffalo Bills' top two receivers last season was Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. Neither of them returned in 2024. Josh Allen is the first quarterback in NFL history to have his team lose his top two wide receivers by yards from the previous year and yet still win the MVP. This is something else that actually shocked me right here. This was a surprise. I think they just didn't want to give my man Lamar Jackson back to back, when it came to the MVP award. Lamar Jackson is the first player in NFL history to have more passing yards, more passing touchdowns, fewer interceptions, a higher completion percentage, more rushing yards, a higher rushing average than the MVP this season. Say what you want, but I definitely feel like this was more of an MVP season for Lamar versus, Josh Allen. The only reason why I'm not really arguing this or even want to even put too much into it is like they just said, he lost Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis and still had a stellar season. I think he did better without the superstars on his team than he did with. He still had Dalton Kincaid and Dalton Knox. I mean, Amari Cooper's no pushover neither, Khalil Sakir. He had a few good guys, and they stepped up in the absence of Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis. So I give credit where credit is due, and that's the reason why I think once it came all in all to who's the MVP, I still feel like Josh Allen possibly beat him just because of he didn't have all the weapons that Lamar did. So I mean, that's another argument you could talk about for another day. The San Francisco 49ers expected to explore trading wide receiver Debo Samuels. Both sides happen to be at peace with the decision. Debo Samuel requested a trade during Sunday's player exit meetings. I feel like with how bad he's been playing, I don't know, maybe it's time for them to move on from him. I feel like last year he didn't step up. Brandon Ayuk was out for most of the year, so that wasn't an excuse. I feel like Debo Samuel's a great player, or he was on the cusp of being a great player. He started to take a step back now. You can still use him, and maybe it just might be a change of scenery for him to step up and play good and step his game up to being the Debo we seen in 2020, 2021. Maybe that may be the case, maybe it won't, but I look at it like give it an opportunity and see what happens. Do I feel like another team could use him? Absolutely. Do I think he's the same player that he was recently? Maybe not, but right now I think that this is the best opportunity for both sides to go ahead and separate. Him finding a new team, getting a new chance on another team to prove himself. And then on top of that, San Francisco moving on and maybe getting somebody in free agency or through the draft. The Philadelphia Eagles won Super Bowl 59 over the Kansas City Chiefs in front of a record number of viewers. The Super Bowl set the all-time record with the projected average audience of 126 million viewers on Sunday night, according to Fox Sports PR. The network reported a peak audience at 135.7 million. In the second quarter of the Eagles' 40-22 win, the Super Bowl also drew a record high streaming viewership, including 13.6 viewers watching on Tubi. And before the Super Bowl, too, this was something that I found that was interesting. Vic Fangio was 0-8 against Patrick Mahomes, 0-6 as a head coach of the Denver Broncos, and 0-2 as a defensive coordinator with the Dolphins. Vic Fangio defense performance. First four games of the year, they were teams averaging on his defense 24 points per game. Turnover differential was -6, and the win and loss record was 2-2. The last 17 games, including playoffs, they were only giving up 16.7 per game, plus 29 in the turnover differential versus opponents, and was 16-1. That's the best 17 game span in team history. I want to talk about some of the stats too, as far as Debo Samuel and why I believe that he shouldn't be in San Francisco next year. Maybe I'm wrong, but I doubt it. But his game took a step back. Debo Samuel's had a down year, of course. He had 51 catches, 670 yards, and 3 touchdowns in 15 games played. And I seen games where he just couldn't keep the ball in his hand. My boy, Marcus Hutchinson, he was telling me like, yeah, Hugh, man, you got to look into what Debo's doing, man. He's not really playing that well right now. And I gave the excuse because it was raining. So, but then, I look back and start seeing his stats and now this season. Yeah, he had a really bad year. And usually a guy like this don't have 3 touchdowns to 670 yards, but I still feel like he could do another team justice. And there's a lot of teams can use him as a runner and a receiver, but I don't know. Maybe it's the end for him, but I know in San Francisco he won't be back, in my opinion. I was hearing rumors, and at first I didn't think that it was going to be true. But at the season around the trade deadline, they were saying that they were going to get rid of Cooper Cup, and they was possibly up for trades at the trade deadline. It never happened, so I thought that he'd be safe the rest of his career, but I was wrong. They want so badly to, get rid of some of their salary cap and to have a salary cap dump. Hell, they was going to get rid of Matthew Stafford last season and try to trade him to Minnesota Vikings or any other team who was interested. Now they told Cooper Cup that they were going to move on from him, and there was no way that he was going to stay. Maybe if he said that he'll get a lower salary cap, but I doubt if he'll do that. And then, unfortunately, them drafting the way they have, they found a Puka Nakua. And Puka Nakua now is that guy who Cooper Cup used to be. So I kind of looked at that and it was a head scratcher for me because I said, damn, Puka Nakua started to get all the, accolades and all the love now. And it just seemed like I seen the game too when they played this year. I forgot which one it was, but it was like the end of the season. And it was one of those games where it was raining and it was pretty bad weather. But Puka Nakua was still getting his touches, and I don't even think Cooper Cup even got one reception that game. So that spoke volumes to me in the direction they were going to go with Cooper Cup. And the Dallas Cowboys had discussions about possibly trading Micah Parsons. I'm not trying to really get too heavy into this because I know I'll have eventually a Detroit Lions what they need as far as through the draft. But hell, if they can get a trade and get Micah Parsons over there, I'd be happy because I'm still hearing about Myles Garrett, and I was hearing Joey Bosa might not be with the Chargers next season because of salary cap dump, and Khalil Mack. There's so many people that possibly might be out there in free agency, and I can't wait because we're in February right now. It's coming in March, so I still will have a few things to talk about with football because football don't go away. Yeah, the season might be over, but there's still a lot of things to come. I'm going to talk about some of them Super Bowl stats as well, the aftermath of the Super Bowl, and the next gen stats, insight for the Kansas City and the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles generated a pressure rate at 38.1% Sunday and didn't blitz once. And NFL research on the 22nd birthday, Eagles defensive back Cooper DeJean became the first player in NFL history to record a pick six on his birthday. Gene of the Eagles is the youngest player in NFL history to score a touchdown on his birthday as well. Entering the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes has gone 288 consecutive pass attempts without an interception, while Jalen Hurts is at 209 straight, including the playoffs. Mahomes had the longest interception-free streak entering the Super Bowl starting time, and Hurts had the third longest after Matt Ryan in 2016 with three more over him in 212. Jalen Hurts of the Eagles is the only quarterback in NFL history to do all the following in a single game, regular and postseason. Throw for 200 plus yards, rush for 70 plus yards, throw for multiple touchdowns, rush for a touchdown, complete 75% of his passes, average 10 plus yards per pass attempt, and win the game. And Nick Sirianni of the Eagles is the first head coach in NFL history to be the coach 20 years older than him to win the championship. Head coaches has been 0-8 all time when facing coaches 20 years older in title games, Super Bowls or pre-Super Bowl era NFL and AFL titles. And over the last 39 NFL seasons, 7 teams have won 15 plus games in a single season. But check this out, though. Not one of them won the Super Bowl that season. Those 17 since 1985 Chicago Bears won it. So since the Chicago Bears won in 1985, that hasn't been duplicated. And these are all the teams who had 15 wins and lost. And it hurts me because my team was last on the list. 1998 Minnesota Vikings, 2004 Steelers, 2007 Patriots, 2011 Packers, 2015 Panthers, the 2024 Chiefs, and the 2024 Lions. But see, at least the Chiefs went to the Super Bowl. The Lions didn't even make it out of the division round. Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl 59. He had 11.4 total quarterback rating, second lowest in regular season or playoff history. 6 sacks, most in his career, regular season or playoffs. 3 turnovers, most in his playoff career, and 51-minute game time trailing, most in playoff starts. And Kellen Moore, now, I was going to say this before the game, possibly the New Orleans Saints head coach, and materialized that he is, had the most rushing per game in the regular season by a Super Bowl winning team. The 1972 Dolphins had 211 yards in rushing. 1975 Steelers had 188. The Dolphins back on the list in 1973 won 180. And 2024 Philadelphia Eagles had 179 yards. They're the most in any season since 1950, the most by a Super Bowl champion in 50 years. So that's the reason why I still feel like they deserve to be called the Super Bowl champions. And like I said, keep your head up high, KC. I still feel like all you guys have to do is tweak the O line, and I still want you guys to focus on. Yeah, you have good receivers. Hollywood Brown seems like he's constantly injured. I believe Xavier Worthy is going to be a sensation in the league. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's a good slot guy, but I never really had him as an elite receiver ever since he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers. But now I believe if you can't get it in the draft, I still believe you guys should go after another receiver who can take the top off. You know, Tyreek Hill, for instance, you're going to need that type of guy. But if you could just get a guy in free agency who can help out, I mean, because DeAndre Hopkins, I love that guy, man. I just don't feel like in this part of his career that he can still get separation. He's good in a slot, possibly, but I just don't really feel like he is in his prime anymore. And it's to the point where he's at the end of his NFL career. That's just my opinion. Same thing with Travis Kelsey. I don't know if he still have enough in him. I do believe that his stats was even that great. I believe that he had like maybe 20 yards on 7 plays, and I think the longest play was that pitch play that Patrick Mahomes did to him when he shuffled it to him towards the front, and he got the first down. It's time for them to retool, and I believe they'll do that through the draft or in free agency. They're going to have the money, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go out because and pay some of these players. Usually that's uncharacteristic of a Kansas City team, but now after losing the Super Bowl for the second time, what they did was shore up their O line that first time around, and now I believe they're going to focus on the O line and getting better wide receiver play. I don't really know what they're going to do because a lot of people try to blame it on Andy Reid and say that he put Patrick Mahomes in bad situations where they didn't run the ball more, and a lot of people look at it and say Patrick Mahomes get a lot of the blame too for trying to play hero ball and have one of the worst games of his career. Honestly, in my opinion, I really didn't have no dog in this fight, but I was happy to see Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith, former Alabama players win it. But I didn't too much care about the C.J. Gardner-Johnson winning it. But either way, I looked at it like they still had a good year. I'm not really a fan, but you have to respect and appreciate what they did. When people see greatness, they start to hate you and they start to, throw stones your way. I knew this was going to happen with Kansas City, and I was telling people once they start to win, Patrick Mahomes, of course, And then Tom Brady left, so it wasn't really nobody you could love to hate. He was going to be that next guy no matter what he did. So yeah, regardless of the fact, maybe it's time for them to retool. But then I'll be focusing on the Detroit Lions and their needs as well going through the draft. I just want to say thank you all for chiming in. Appreciate you. And I will be having the show on Wednesday, of course. You know, me and co-host Ebuck, we will be doing the Google Sports Session at 9 p.m. Hoobie is my Instagram page where, you know, you'll see like a reel of this show right here after I finish today. Sports Guru to You is my Facebook page where I put all the things in sports, late breaking news, and etc. And then you can catch me on TikTok as well for Hugh.Lee6. I put up all the highlight reels and everything that you want to see of sports, whether it's football, basketball, baseball, etc. Sports Guru to You at gmail.com is where you can catch me at if you want to hear me talk about any more sports, NFL, NHL, etc. Just let me know. Hit me up on the Sports Guru to You. And then at the same time, you can catch me on YouTube at Hugh Lee. Thank you all. Go there, like and subscribe to the next episode. Have a blessed day, and thank you all for chiming in.